Xiao Kui was also called by Dad. Old Park was completely stunned. It seemed the memory from a week ago had already vanished from his mind. By the evening, the police friend sent him the test results, and the blood on the handkerchief is indeed deer blood. This made Old Park even more doubtful of himself. Could it be that he really killed the person? If it goes on like this, he worried that if he didn't go now, he might harm his daughter before Xiao Kui did. So he rushed into Yoonhee's room, waking up his sleeping daughter. She contacted her sister, preparing to send Yoonhee over to stay for a while. That day, Xiao Kui found Old Park and asked why he hadn't seen Yoonhee for several days. Old Park slightly raised the corners of his mouth and confidently said that he sent Yoonhee to her aunt's house. I heard from Eunmi. Your father sometimes looks for his sister who died when he was young. Isn't that right? It has never been like this. Disbelieving, he immediately checked his phone. He had just talked to his sister a few days ago, so why couldn't he reach her today? Unwilling to accept it, he drove directly to his sister's house, and the sight before him was astonishing. On the long-abandoned bench, there was the leftover sushi he had eaten a few days earlier. Suddenly, his head hurt terribly, and memories flooded back like a spring. He remembered that the last woman he killed was actually his wife. Because she had betrayed him, he killed her on the way. Yoonhee was not actually their child, which is why in his rage, he dealt with his wife in the bamboo forest. On his way home, he was focused on looking at the family photo in the car, which then caused the accident. At this point, Old Park realized, since there was no sister, who took away his daughter, he tried to recall the scene of sending off Yoonhee that day, and discovered that the taxi's license plate was exactly the same as Little Choi's. It turned out that Little Choi had taken Yoonhee, and the daughter was in danger. Meanwhile, in a small mountain temple, in the room, Xiao Sui talked to himself in the mirror, and in the next second, he surprisingly removed half of his own head. Engsi saw this scene, and couldn't help but widen her eyes. Then, Xiao Sui told Engsi that he, like Old Park, had been subjected to domestic violence since childhood. One day, he wanted to kill his father, but his mother struck half of his head off with an iron. From then on, he completely saw through women. Meanwhile, Old Park arrived there. When enemies meet, they naturally see red. The two of them didn't waste any words, and started fighting immediately. But the elderly Mr. Park was no match for Choi, who had him in a chokehold. At this moment, Yoon-sung's cries for help stimulated Mr. Park, awakening his killer instincts. In an instant, he countered Choi, pinned him to the ground, and without hesitation, picked up a broken wine bottle and stabbed Choi, very quickly. Very soon, the police arrived at the scene and successfully arrested Old Park, but they did not find Xiao Kui's body. In the interrogation room, Old Park knew nothing when questioned. The police, fearing it would agitate Old Park's mental state, did not press further in the interrogation room. Asked more questions. Ultimately, they could only release him without charge. At the end of the movie, the police presented an MRI of Old Park's brain, and on this image, the skull, just like Xiao Kui, missing half. At this moment, Lao Pu is walking alone on the railway tracks, wearing his favorite little white shoes. He adjusts his shoes to face the right direction, and suddenly recalls everything. Actually, Xiao Kui is just an ordinary police officer. After Lao Pu committed murder, Xiao Kui accidentally rear-ended him. When Xiao Kui got out of the car, he immediately saw that there was a person in the trunk, but Lao Pu mistakenly identified Xiao Kui as his sister. That day, Xiao Kui was indeed protecting his benefactor. When the young Park killed his father, his mother hit his head with an iron. Out of control, he brutally killed his mother. His sister could not accept this fact, and chose to commit suicide. Xiao Chui had already been killed by young Park on the day of the car incident. Therefore, all of this is a result